to a tube with a bunch of demons. Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
This dope-filled world,
Right.
and get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Right, that's exactly the
And
point.
it's deadly.
In the name of God, billions are collected. In the name of faith, fortunes are built. In the name of salvation, some are getting rich.
Don't panic. God knows how to take what was meant for harm and turn it to your advantage. He may not deliver you from it, but He will prosper you in it.
Behind the promises of healing, prosperity, and eternal life lies a machine-polished, powerful, and profitable empire.
There's 1,000 of you. I said close them doors. Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors.
This isn't just religion. This is a business. This is the gospel of greed. Since the origins of the moving screen, people have sought their fame and fortune from it. Televangelism. It became a way for people who couldn't get out of the house to watch church services. You would think that spreading the gospel in this way would be a good thing, but unfortunately it has led to a skyrocket of preachers who are just in it for the notoriety, the prosperity, the power, the money, and the celebrity status. This spotlight has allowed for an explosion of megachurches, arenas that hold thousands of people and put on a production, not a service. Today, we're going to be looking into the greed of megachurches. Those pastors who have achieved celebrity status and have garnered a lot of controversy with that power. I also did a personal investigation into a megachurch in the area I live in. We're also going to be reviewing the tax loopholes and things that these places use to expand their profit even more. And we're going to look at some of the manufactured worship that they produce. I am Forrest Young, and this is televangelism, which is a fusion of the words television and evangelism, emerged as a significant force during American life in the mid-20th century. While religious broadcasting began with the radio in the 1920s, it was the advent of the television that truly transformed the landscape. Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen is widely recognized as the first televangelist. His transition from radio to television in 1952 with the program Life is Worth Living garnered immense popularity and earned him 2 Emmy Awards. Sheen's success paved the way for other religious leaders, such as Billy Graham, who utilized televised crusades in order to reach vast audiences, blending spiritual messages with the charisma of a celebrity. The 1960s and the 1970s were a period of rapid growth for televangelism, due in no small part by the proliferation of television in everyday life. Everyone was watching TV at this point in time. It was a primary source of entertainment and information for the general American public. Figures like Oral Roberts and Pat Robertson capitalized on this trend. Roberts' broadcast reached 80% of the possible television audience by 1957, while Robertson founded his Christian broadcasting network CBN in 1961, launching the 700 Club, which became a staple in religious broadcasting. These developments not only expanded the reach of religious messages, but it also introduced new funding models for these churches and figures, relying heavily on viewer donations and the promotion of the prosperity theology, the belief that faith can lead to material wealth and success. Despite its widespread influence, televangelism has faced significant controversy and criticism. The lack of oversight and accountability for many televangelists has led to financial scandals and ethical concerns. For instance, A 2003 survey by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch found that only 1 out of 17 televangelists researched were members of the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability, raising questions about financial transparency. Additionally, some televangelists have been accused of promoting messages that conflict with traditional Christian doctrines, leading to debates within the religious community about the authenticity and intentions of televised ministries. Televangelism can be done in the right way. I believe that a form of televangelism, instead of doing televised preaching, I believe using stories from the Bible is a form of televangelism, and I believe that's a good thing. It's teaching lessons directly from the Bible. Now, using, as we will see further along in the video, using the gospel to tell people that your best life is now, and that giving to these essentially corporations is a way to make your life even better than it possibly could be, is just wrong. And we'll get into this more later, but the money people put into it leads to these shows that are put on. It's not like the money is going to anything good. You don't need to put on a stage production every Christmas. It's not meant to be entertainment. Kenneth Copeland, born on December 6, 1936 in Lubbock, Texas, is a prominent televangelist and the founder of Kenneth Copeland Ministries. Initially pursuing a career in music, Copeland experienced a spiritual transformation in the 1960s, leading him to attend Oral Roberts University, where he served as a pilot and chauffeur for Oral Roberts himself. In 1967, Copeland and his wife, Gloria, established KCM in Fort Worth, Texas, promoting the prosperity gospel, a doctrine asserting that faith, positive speech, and donations to religious causes can lead to material wealth and success. Over the decades, KCM expanded its reach through television broadcasts, conventions, and international offices, solidifying Copeland's status as a leading figure in the Word of Faith movement. Despite his widespread influence, Copeland's ministry has been marred by controversies, particularly concerning his lavish lifestyle. He owns multiple private jets, which I guess they're private jets. The church probably owns them, but they're his, essentially, including a $50 million Gulfstream V, which he claims is essential for his ministry work.
Hey,
Right.
this dope-filled world,
Right.
and get in a long tube with a bunch of demons,
Right. That's exactly the
and
truth.
it's deadly.
Critics argue that such opulence contradicts Christian teachings on humility and stewardship, and I would agree. Furthermore, Copeland resides in an 18,000 square foot mansion valued at $7 million, which qualifies for tax-exempt status under Texas law as a parsonage, a designation that has drawn scrutiny and criticism. So basically, he does not pay taxes on his $7 million mansion. In 2007, the U.S. Senate Finance Committee investigated several televangelists, including Copeland, for potential financial improprieties, though no definitive wrongdoing was found. Kenneth Copeland has also faced criticism for his dramatic and theatrical approach to faith healing and spiritual messages. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he famously said, he famously claimed to blow the virus away during a televised sermon, was a moment that went viral and was openly mocked for its sensationalism by the rest of the Christian community. His insistence that he would never contract COVID-19 because of his faith led many to question the responsibility of such public health messaging from religious figures. Beyond the pandemic, Copeland has been known to make bold claims regarding divine healing and financial miracles, often connecting them directly to viewer donations. These practices have drawn scrutiny from both secular critics and fellow Christians who question the theological soundness and ethical implications of his teachings. One comment I will make is Kenneth Copeland probably never got COVID because he flied in his private jets and never had to interact with anyone ever. Yeah, it's pretty hard to contract something when you are so afraid to be in the general public because you think everyone is demons compared to you. And it's interesting because there's a lot of fraud being put out in the world right now. And I do think these millionaire, sometimes almost billionaire preachers, people telling you what to do and not doing it themselves it's just hypocritical. And they are frauds. They're committing fraud, and they are frauds. Joel Osteen, born on March 5th, 1963, in Houston, Texas, is a prominent American pastor, televangelist, and author. He is best known for leading Lakewood Church, which is one of the largest congregations in the United States. Osteen initially worked behind the scenes producing his father's televised sermons. After his father, John Osteen, passed away in 1999, Joel assumed the role of senior pastor. Under his leadership, Lakewood Church expanded significantly, moving into the Compaq Center, a former sports arena, to accommodate its growing membership. Osteen's sermons, characterized by their positive and motivational messages, have attracted millions of viewers worldwide through television broadcasts and online platforms. Which, and we'll get to this when we get to the Hill. We're going to talk about the Hillsong United Church. It's interesting that so a lot of times these roles get passed down to the sons. Now, Kenneth Copeland, he was basically mentored by one of the first televangelists, Oral Roberts. So it's interesting. So maybe that also got passed down. It's kind of like they get mentored by someone else who is also doing a similar thing to them, which we've been over this, but it is the idea that giving to these organizations will also lead to like wealth and success for yourself. He emphasizes themes like hope, self-improvement, and the power of belief, often avoiding discussions on sin or traditional theological doctrines. This approach has garnered both praise and criticism. Supporters appreciate his uplifting messages that focus on personal growth and optimism. Critics, however, argue that his teachings lack depth, may offer a skewed interpretation of Christian theology, potentially leading followers to equate faith with financial prosperity. Throughout his career, Osteen has also faced several controversies. Notably, during the Hurricane Harvey in 2017, he was criticized for not immediately opening Lakewood Church as a shelter for those displaced by the flooding. Initial statements claimed that the church was inaccessible due to flooding, but images and reports suggested otherwise, leading to public backlash. Osteen later opened the church to evacuees and defended the initial delay, citing safety concerns. Additionally, his considerable personal wealth have sparked debates about the ethical implications of his messages and lifestyle. Despite these controversies, Osteen continues to be a significant figure in modern evangelicalism, with a vast following and influence through his sermons, books, and media presence, which I know this has been said to death, but one of his books is called Your Best Life Now, which any Christian knows your best life is not now. But it's also funny because I watched all the news footage of Osteen after he said that the church was flooded and that's why he didn't let anyone in. And people took videos saying that it was not flooded. And then they showed a picture that it was flooded on the inside, but then it was dry enough the next day to go. It's just very confusing, and it also just feels like damage control because he didn't want to let people in, but he realized that how much backlash he would get if he didn't do it. And it's just funny because it's all about their image. It's not about anything else but themselves. They put on a facade of wanting to help people, but it is all about making themselves look as good as they possibly can in order to get even more money out of it. Brian and Bobby Houston founded Hillsong Church in 1983 in the suburbs of Sydney, Australia. What began as a small congregation called Hills Christian Life Center quickly grew into a global megachurch under their leadership. Brian, the son of Pentecostal pastor Frank Houston, took over the leadership of his father's ministry after allegations of child sexual abuse against Frank surfaced. Although Brian reported the abuse to church officials, he did not immediately report it to the police, an action that would later lead to criminal charges against him for concealing a serious indictable offense, though he pleaded not guilty. Despite this controversy, Hillsong rapidly expanded, establishing churches in major cities around the world and gaining a reputation for attracting celebrities and young adults through its modern, media-savvy approach to Christianity. One of Hillsong's most influential ministries is Hillsong United, a worship band that emerged from the church's youth group in 1998. Known for blending Christian messages with modern pop and rock music, Hillsong United quickly became a global phenomenon. Led by Joel Houston, Brian and Bobby's son, along with other prominent figures like Reuben Morgan and Taya Smith, the band released multiple chart-topping albums. Their hit song, Oceans, became one of the most popular worship songs in history, earning quadruple platinum status in the US. And spending over a year atop the Billboard Hot Christian Songs chart. Hillsong's music has been a powerful tool for evangelism, with churches around the world incorporating their songs into weekly worship services. Despite its spiritual and cultural success, the church has faced serious scandals that have tarnished its reputation in recent years. In 2022, Brian Houston stepped down as a global senior pastor, following internal investigations into 2 separate misconduct complaints involving inappropriate behavior towards women. One involved a text message exchange, while another included allegations that he spent time alone in a hotel room with a female staff member under the influence of alcohol. These incidents followed a string of controversies involving Hillsong pastors worldwide, including the highly publicized firing of Carl Lentz, the former lead pastor of Hillsong NYC, for moral failings and infidelity. Lentz had been a celebrity pastor known for his close relationships with figures like Justin Bieber, but his downfall revealed a deeper pattern of poor leadership accountability and toxic internal culture. In addition to leadership scandals, Hillsong has come under fire for alleged financial mismanagement and its cult-like control over its staff and followers. Whistleblower accounts and media investigations have alleged that volunteers were overworked and exploited, while senior leaders enjoyed lavish lifestyles. A 2022 documentary series titled The Secrets of Hillsong brought these issues to a broader audience, examining the church's global structure and widespread fallout from its leadership failures. Critics argue that Hillsong prioritized growth, image, and influence over integrity and pastoral care. As a result, many former members and leaders have distanced themselves from the church, and several campuses across the globe have rebranded or disaffiliated entirely, though Hillsong remains a significant force in global Christianity. Its reputation has become deeply shaken by the very systems that once propelled it to international fame. And I think that the mismanagement and scandals that happen in the Hillsong churches is comparable to the many things that have happened in Catholic churches. What I'm getting at is when something becomes so big that it's essentially a corporation that is being run like a business and not like a church, starts to become unmanageable, and there's fraud inside and out. Megachurches in the United States often benefit from tax-exempt status under Section 501 of the Internal Revenue Code, which exempts them from federal income tax and, in many cases, local property taxes. This exemption is intended to support religious freedom and social services that churches provide. However, some critics argue that certain megachurches exploit these tax benefits to accumulate substantial wealth. These churches can generate significant income through donations, book sales, merchandise, media productions, and conferences, all while avoiding taxes that secular businesses and similar industries must pay. This situation has led to debates about the fairness and appropriateness of such tax exemptions. Now, I don't think that your local Methodist or little Baptist church should have to pay taxes, but at a certain point, you grow so large that I've said it several times in this video, that you're no longer just a church. You are a business. You are running a business. You are selling things to people. You're selling merchandise to people. You're asking people to give thousands of dollars to your church. You are no longer just a small church spreading your message. You are a corporation. A significant concern lies with the lack of financial transparency that is required of these religious organizations. Unlike other nonprofits, churches are not mandated to file annual financial disclosures such as IRS Form 990, which details revenue, expenses, and executive compensation. This lack of oversight can enable financial abuse or excessive personal enrichment. In some documented cases, church leaders have used donations to purchase private jets, luxury homes, and other lavish items, justifying these purchases as necessary for ministry work. Such practices raise ethical questions about stewardship and accountability within wealthy ministries. Moreover, some megachurches have taken advantage of legal gray areas, structuring their finances in a way that it kind of blurs the line between what is personally theirs and what is the church's. Like when I was talking about earlier with Kenneth Copeland and his several private jets that he owns. For instance, parsonage allowances permit clergy to exclude the cost of housing from their taxable income, even when the housing provided is extravagant. Additionally, churches can operate for-profit ventures like publishing companies or music labels under their religious umbrella, shielding profits from taxation. While not all megachurches engage in these practices unethically, the system itself allows for potential abuse. As a result, there is a growing public and political scrutiny over whether current tax exemptions for religious institutions are being fairly applied or exploited for personal and organizational gain. Go back to, I don't think your little church and your small town should have to pay taxes. I think these huge churches that are taking advantage of the system should probably have to start doing that, because it's not about, like I said, it's not about the people and the congregation anymore. It's about the people in power and the celebrity faces that they can put out there to generate an income for themselves. Because for the most part, most pastors, that's not their only job. They have another job. And at some point, so it's not like they're making a whole bunch of money from this. Now, Joel Osteen and Kenneth Copeland and others, that's how they became millionaires. And I feel like if you're in it for the right reason, your goal is not to become as rich as possible doing something like this. And it feels like they are. Now, recently, I did some research and I went to what can be described as one of the more larger, close to mega churches that I have in my area. And I went and I took notes. First of all, this was built in a very nice area, but it's always funny to me when churches are built into a shopping area and they're not standalone. And I know sometimes sometimes you have to do with what's available. But this was in a nice area, and I had three goals. I wanted to see how often they asked you to give. I wanted to see how theatrical the service was. And I wanted to see how much scripture was used during the service. Now, the one I picked, I found, does have a large following online. It was very nice inside. I walked in. It felt more like a convention, a place almost like a convention center where Christians would go to meet. There was escalators, which I never would have expected to see inside of a church. There was offices and all kinds of things inside. Several entrances. They didn't let you go into the main part of the chapel until like it was almost like a concert. It was like you had to wait 5 minutes, like 5 minutes before the service started, and you can come enter. They had a merch store, and like when I was like, oh, a merch store, and it was like a concert venue, and we got inside, and I like looked up at the screen, and the first thing that popped up was it was a donation thing. There was over 8 instances of me seeing. There was like 2 ads talking about donations, and then there was 6 instances from 3 different people during the service asking for donations. And one of those instances it was over 20 minutes worth of asking. And it wasn't even like it was a drive. It almost seemed like a normal day of that, which is a lot for one day. They did have a first time attendance area, like an entrance. I did not go in through there. I wanted to be as non-partial as possible because a lot of mega churches, when you're new, they want to make you feel as special as possible. They will give you things. And I did not want to be given anything. I wanted to be as non-partial as possible when I came in. And I will say there is a problem where I did go in expecting the mega church vibe and to not like it and to feel that it was wrong. There was a whole production team because they do live broadcast the sermons, and there was at least 6 professional cameras in there, and the worship I felt was good. I was in stadium seating basically. I did feel like that there was some inside stuff that I was not part of since that was my first time there. That like it was a lot of repeating. It was a lot of, sometimes the pastor would say something and the crowd would repeat it, and I was like, oh, I've never heard of this before. But backstory on me, I did go to I went to a Baptist church growing up, so of course things are going to be a little bit new to me, especially when like these new age churches that I wouldn't be used to. Now, I was worried because I liked the pastor. I thought he was very good. He was very charismatic, down to earth as you can be for having a large following like that. I thought when I first got in there, I was like, oh, there's not as many people as I expect, but more and more people filtered in. So there was over like 600 people in there, which is one of the biggest church services I've ever been to. And he was very good, but I got worried because we were almost an hour into the sermon before he brought out his first scripture for his lesson. And the scriptures, I wrote them all down. They correlated well. He introduced them into his lesson very well. His lesson did use some props, but nothing like too extravagant to where I was like, all right. It was just to show his message a little bit clearer. But I did think it wasn't too bad, in a way that it was overly uplifting and teaching the prosperity gospel. He did infer that he is leading by example in his giving, which is interesting. That he just believed that give and God will give to you. So His message was good. The tithing stuff was a lot of time used during the sermon. It was enough to where I was like, how long is the sermon going to be? If we're like so far into it now, how much time does he have left, you know? Because I'm used to getting out of there at 11 o'clock and going and getting Mexican food. And at the end of the service, I did look up at the screen one more time, and it did ask for first-time people to leave a review. So it brings back to, it's a business model almost. They want you to tell them what they're doing wrong online so they can improve it like a business. But that's all I have to say about my personal investigation into a megachurch. I would call it a megachurch. It's following. It involved televangelism. So I would say, yeah. Before I get into this next section where we talk about the theatrics in megachurches, well, this happened after I wrote my video essay. There was a woman in one of these churches. I'll put what church it is, and I'm not going to show the video, but apparently this woman, they were doing a Christmas service, and this woman got kicked by a camel. And this is what I'm talking about of too theatrical. You don't need to bring a live camel into the service. It's over the top. It is unnecessary to share your message, but they do it every year. You see videos of it every year. People ziplining. We'll talk about it more in a second.
Life got you feeling down? Baby Billy's Health Elixir will lift you up. Heal the spirit to heal the body.
Colds, flus, streps, even COVIDs. Every disease cured with ease by this blessed formula based on ancient scripture. You just drink this tasty coconut silkiness every morning, and that's it. Done. $100 for a 1 month jug. Additional jugs only $65 a pop. And I make nothing. Zero. Zilch. By the time I pay all my scientists, all my people in my research department lab coats, it's a wash. Well, why you do it then, baby Billy? Well, because I'm selfless. And I want to heal as many people as the dear Lord lets me.
Baby Billy's Health Elixir, a miracle in a bottle.
Theatrics in megachurches often go beyond the music, encompassing dramatic sermons, choreographed altar calls, and testimonies delivered with a cinematic flair. Some pastors use earpiece microphones, walk large stages with dramatic pauses and gestures, and even coordinate stage effects with key points in their sermons. Almost like a show. They're putting on a show, like a play. If you have to rehearse where you're stepping on a stage as a pastor, you are doing a play. These techniques can elicit powerful emotional responses, which are sometimes interpreted by congregants as spiritual encounters. However, critics argue that such tactics can be used to create false sense of divine presence or urgency, particularly when paired with calls for financial donations or commitments. The line between genuine religious fervor and emotional manipulation becomes blurred when worship becomes more about performance than conviction. This manufactured environment can be especially effective at influencing vulnerable or emotionally open individuals. By crafting a heightened atmosphere of unity, purpose, and belonging, megachurch leaders can build strong psychological ties between the church and its members. Repeated exposure to emotionally charged services can lead congregants to associate the church, and by extension, its leadership, with feelings of joy, healing, or spiritual power. In extreme cases, this emotional dependency may discourage critical thinking or dissent, reinforcing loyalty to the institution even when controversies arise. While not all churches abuse these methods, the potential for manipulation is significant, especially in systems where charisma and performance are valued more than accountability or theological depth. But yeah, having people zipline back and forth for your Christmas shows. It's just not what church is about. It's not meant to be a show. If I wanted to go watch a show, I would go to Branson, Missouri. And it's interesting because I know this happens a lot too, is people who are not religious will work for churches because they know, like these mega churches at least, because they know that they are getting an easy addition to their resume for these performances and like their camera work, like all the whole media team, even worship singers. They aren't, some of them, I'm not saying all, but like people will take advantage of this and know that it is such a performance that they can use that as a part of their reel or resume. But it is like, it's like a TV show, a play, a movie. They are eliciting the feelings from you in such a rehearsed way. They're doing this in just almost like such an insincere way to drive up your emotion to where you're more willing to do stuff for them or donate money to them. And, you know, I've said this over and over. I'm not saying this about the little... I mean, you know what? There is controversies in little churches all the time. But I'm not saying this about your little church that has 30 people there every week. I'm saying this to the corporations that call themselves churches. To finish this video, I just wanted to talk about go over how I think these people are presenting themselves as good people and people that you should look up to, and they are not. The Kenneth Copelands and Joel Osteens are not people you should want to become in your life. Because the Bible states that there is one person you should implement and try and be just like. You shouldn't be using celebrities or these people as your role models. But that's all I have today for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. We are on Spotify. I said that in the last video, but we'll link that in the description. If you don't like seeing my face talking, or if you just like listening more than you do watching, you can always watch on there. We have more videos coming down the pipeline, so stay tuned for that. I do appreciate you guys watching. Maybe you'll watch our next video or leave a like on this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time, and always remember, your best life is not now.